Hello everyone and welcome back to Fly From Home. It's your friendly neighbourhood flying instructor Kitty here, and I'm in a rather different looking simulator today. Unless you've been existing underneath the rock for the last few days, you'll have heard that the new Microsoft Flight Simulator has launched, and here we are in it at the lovely Nottingham Tollerton Airport. And as you can see, with the settings cranked all the way up to maximum, it looks absolutely fantastic. But I'm sure what a lot of you are thinking are, what is it like in terms of an actual simulation of flying an aeroplane? Is it just a pretty face? Is it just here to wow people with graphics and scenery and things like that? Or is it realistic for those of us who want to practice real-world procedures? So I'm going to give just my initial sort of impressions on the sim in this video. We're going to do a little VFR flight. Hopefully it's going to be VFR all the way this time, unlike last time. From Taunton, and we're going to fly down to Coventry, which is just on the edge of Birmingham airspace. They're both uncontrolled fields. Nottingham is just an air ground, and Coventry is a FISO surface. So neither of them have got any kind of radar or anything like that. So it should be a good opportunity for us to just do a few little VFR procedures and hopefully, fingers crossed, navigate our way down there visually without having to rely on the GPS or nav aids or anything like that we've used in our past videos on the old P3D simulator. So here we are. We've got a DA62 here as our aeroplane for today. Now this is not an aeroplane that I've flown in real life. However, I have got quite a few hours in the kind of little brother of this aeroplane, or I don't know, little sister. Are aeroplanes girls? Yes, they are. Which is the DA42, which is the four-seater version. This is actually a 6/7 seat, I think. Slightly stretched fuselage, heavier max takeoff weight version. But it's got the same engines, same props, very sort of similar aeroplane all around, and pretty similar in the cockpit too. So I'm going to just be using the procedures that I'd usually be using in the DA42, as well as the checklist that we've got in game. I would use my company checklist, but again, I've left all my flying stuff at work, so unfortunately I can't run through our sort of company procedures, other than the things that I can sort of remember off by heart. So without further ado, let's pop inside the aeroplane. So I don't really have any shortcuts for views or anything for this, so you're gonna have to bear with me having to use this this menu. Anyway, we'll crack on with getting the aeroplane going. So the parking brake is here, and that's set. So we're all good there. We're clear in front and behind. There's no tie downs or anything like that. So we'll grab the checklist and we'll start going through the pre-flight inspection. So the parking brake is set. We can tick that item. Fuel selectors. So now if this is like the 42, yeah, there we go. Fuel selectors should come to the on position, like that. And we can tick that item. Alternators, so on the 42 they're over here. There we go, they're actually off, I think. There we go. So they're both on. Pitot heats is this big one here, and that's off. Engine master switches, so that's these two big toggles here, they're both off. Avionics master switch, so that's that one there, that's off. Gear selector, check down, which it is. Flap selector, which is over here, big plastic flap shaped thing, and that's up. All electrical equipment, obviously, is all off, you can't see anything on there. Electromaster on, so I'll pop that on now. You can see the Garmin G1000 system that we've got here firing up. This is a little bit of a newer G1000 version that I'm used to, so you'll have to bear with me. In terms of the fidelity of these aeroplanes, they're pretty good for default aeroplanes, but they're not study level, so I wouldn't expect anything too crazy from the kind of systems depth that we've got here, but it's more than enough for you to kind of jump in and just start having some fun with the simulator. Fuel quantity, so we've got full tanks, got 25 gallons each side. I think, if memory serves me right, this aeroplane does about 14 gallons an hour, but don't quote me on that. I know it's 12 gallons per hour in the 42. but like I said, I've never flown one of these in real life. Right, electrical master back off again, so we've checked all that. Control stick, so let's have a look. And we do have full travel, left, right, and pedals are working too. And that is all done, so we'll move on to the starting engine now. So power levers, we'll check that they're in the idle position, which they are. Parking brake is set, so we'll tick these. Avionics masters off, gear selectors down, alternators are on. Fuel pumps, so this is something that the 42 doesn't have. Apparently this aeroplane has fuel pumps, so we're going to check that they're both off. Electric master can come on, so we're going to start firing up again. And that's the before starting engine checklist done. Now that says strobe lights and anti-collisions on. What's going on here? Okay, interesting. Now, I personally am a big believer in not turning on your strobe lights unless you're on the active runway, just on the risk of blinding people. This aircraft doesn't have a beacon light like most aircraft does. So obviously there needs to be some way of showing people that the aircraft's under power and it's potentially about to start. As per our company checklists, we use the position lights or the navigation lights for that. So I'm going to do that instead, and we'll just tick that. Okay, so we're going to go left engine master. So if this is like the real aeroplane, when I do this, there we go. We've got a left glow. Now these engines are kind of interesting. They are 4-cylinder, turbocharged, essentially diesel engines, heavily modified diesel car engines. From a Mercedes car. So they're actually compression ignition, which means they have glow plugs. So it has to run a little glow cycle before you can start it. And that's when you flick the engine master, that's what it does. It runs the glow cycle. So the little annunciation is gone off now. So yeah, we've checked that that's on. And we can now press a starter button. So in the 42 it's a key, but we've got a cool little button in this airplane. So I'm going to press and hold it until we've got, in fact, let's set these displays up. So what I usually do for starting this airplane, okay, I guess that doesn't work. In the real airplane, if you hit that, it gives you a display back up on this side and puts an engine, puts this ED, engine display on both sides. And allows you to sort of monitor more than just these engine systems, but I guess I'll just do it from this. So we're going to start the engine when we're looking for 500 RPM, so we're going to hold the starter until 500 RPM. There we go, and we'll release it at 500, and we've got oil pressure, which is very important. We've got no red indications on there. If it allowed me to do it, I don't think it's got the function. In the real aeroplane, there's an ability to check the volts and amps as well. So you check those to make sure the battery was charging, and you just quickly look over here and make sure the engine's not on fire. So no fire, oil pressure's good, volts and amps will assume are fine too, and we'll clear the cautions and alerts. Okay. Yeah, annunciation starter, oil pressure's good, yeah, idle, yeah, 700 RPM's fine. So now we do the same for the other engine. So pop the engine master off. We've got on. We've got the glow there. Let it run the glow cycle, and then we'll check the RPM. Press and hold until 500. There we go. Oil pressure comes up. As you can see, the coolant temperature is a little bit low on the right side, but that's absolutely fine. No reds, volts and amps presumably are fine, and we don't have any kind of fire, so that's great. Okay. Tick that item, and we can go on to the after starting engine. So avionics master can now come on, so that's going to turn on our radio and our autopilot. This has got an integrated autopilot control in this panel here. The 42 that I'm familiar with actually has a little separate autopilot down there, so you'll have to bear with me with getting to grips with that. Power levers as required, so yeah, we'll leave them at idle. Things are just warming up nicely. Electrical equipment on as required, so can fire up anything we need here in terms of radios, transponder and all the rest of it. We'll just quickly check what we've got tuned on there. Nothing useful. We may tune in the East Midlands Echo Mike Echo actually. Check the transponder, standby 7000. So that's perfect. Altimeter setting. Now, this is something that is quite annoying. The altimeter seems to be only selectable as inches of mercury instead of hectopascals, which is obviously what we use in Europe and the UK. So the East Midlands QNH is 1001, so I'm just going to do a quick conversion. So 1001 is 29.56, so we're going to set that on the barrow here, which is the outside knob there. .29056, and yeah, 100 feet there or thereabouts is about right for the airfield elevation here. Now I don't know if there's any backup altimeters to set. Yeah, I guess there is. There's this one here, so 29056 on this one. There we go, so that's set times 2. Okay, flight instruments and avionics, we're doing that now. We're going to take off runway 09 here at Nottingham. There is a runway 21 which is more into wind, but it's quite short. So I'm not going to take any risks with it, and I'm going to go 09 and accept the crosswind from the right. So I'm going to select runway heading on here. And I'll line the CDI up with it as well. Just extra bit of situational awareness. Now we do have a course in here on the GPS, but like I said, we're going to be trying to keep it mostly VFR. And just navigating the old-fashioned way with a map and a compass and a stopwatch. So we'll tick that item. Strobe lights, well, yeah, we're not using those. Position lights are on, landing in taxi, so we'll put the taxi lights on when we actually start taxi. Trim set to take off position. So the trim is... For some reason I can't move the camera around as much as I actually want to. Don't know if it's... something I've accidentally clicked on here, or what. I'm still really getting to grips with this. But anyway. So normally there's a little trim indicator there. I can't really see it because the camera for some reason won't allow me to look down further than that. I have no idea what's going on with that. But we'll assume it's fairly neutral. If it's not, well, we'll have some fun times on takeoff. So we'll assume that's our checklist complete. We're going to go do our power checks now. So let's pop the parking brake off. Let's pop our taxi lights on. We're going to do a backtrack down runway 09 instead of taking the little Perry track up here, which is normally what you do at this airport for runway 09. But for a relatively large twin like this, you're just inviting the possibility of striking your engines, and we've got another aircraft turning up here, so let's pass down this side of him. I have actually got live traffic on, so presumably this is another player here, or rather, it's not. It's an AI because it's some kind of Baron or something like that, which isn't. Well, it is, but that color scheme isn't actually available in game, so presumably that's an AI. Still very much getting to grips with this sim. I only had it a couple of days, but really been enjoying it a lot. So we'll come down to runway 09. I'm going to try and put the aeroplane a little bit off the centre line of the taxiway so we don't hit anyone with the prop wash, and set the parking brake. It's not so imperative to put this aeroplane into wind like it is with most aircraft, because it's actually water cooled, so you're not relying on airflow to keep the engines cool so much in this aeroplane. So we'll just turn a little bit off the taxiway here, pop the taxi lights off because we've stopped, and we can run our power checks. So the power checks are just the ECU test here. So you'd press this, hold it, and the engine runner would run through a whole bunch of self-tests to check the engine ECUs and stuff like that. However, it's in-op. Like I said, it's not a study level aeroplane, so got actually nothing to do with that. Same thing with the ECU swap A and B. You'd swap these and there'd be a little sort of kick and a change in RPM, and you'd just make sure that both ECUs are working. Each engine has 2 ECUs, a main and a backup. For some reason they seem to be set to ECU B. They should actually be set to A for normal flight. Oops. But yeah, you'd check between the 2 and make sure they both sets are working. And then you'd leave it in the auto position, which is the middle. So yeah, instead of leaving them down like that or selected on either side, you'd leave them in the center, and the aircraft would decide. Well, it would default to A, and if A failed, it would then switch automatically over to B. Anyway, so we can fix this camera. There we go. Okay, cool. Right, so let's have a quick look out for traffic. In fact, should we talk to ATC? So 134880, that is actually the frequency at Nottingham. And we'll say we're going to depart to the south.
Ground Diamond Golf, Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar, ready to taxi south departure. Diamond Golf, Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar, taxi to and hold short of runway 21 via taxiway cross runway 9er Alpha. Contact tower on 134.88 when ready.
Okay, well...
Taxi to and hold short runway 21 via taxiway cross runway 9er Alpha Diamond Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar.
So the awesome text-to-speech ATC is actually sending us runway 21. You know what? Stop it. Let's see if we can actually get off runway 21. Should be fun. Now you might notice that I'm adding a lot of power to get the aeroplane moving here. Now, like I said, I've not flown the real DA62, but I'm pretty sure that's not very accurate. The aeroplane shouldn't be that difficult to get taxiing. It almost seems like we're kind of stuck in mud or something, and we're just... Or like the parking brake is stuck on or something like that. It's rather strange. Like I said, these airplanes are quite basic. There's a little bit of system steps to them. But they're also quite kind of buggy at the moment. So if you're going in here expecting to be flying around in sort of study level, perfect, polished airplanes, you're going to be somewhat disappointed. I'm going to put the controls over into wind, because I think we're getting affected by the wind quite a bit. Stop at this. Oh, I've got to put our taxi lights back on. Stop at this holding point here, and we're going to have a quick look up, final approach there. Everything looks clear, so let's request our takeoff clearance.
Tower Diamond Golf, Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar, ready for south departure at runway 21. Diamond Golf, Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar, cleared for takeoff runway 21, departure to the south approved. Cleared for takeoff runway 21, Diamond Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar.
Now I'm going to bug 1,500 feet, because just to the south of Nottingham is the controlled airspace at East Midlands. Here we go again. So we don't want to be busting through that. In real life we need a clearance. I don't know if we're going to need a clearance in-game, but let's try and keep it as realistic as possible, and assume that we don't have any kind of clearance or anything like that, and we need to stay out of that controlled airspace. Now, I'm going to set what would be the approach flap setting in the 42. I'm assuming that's the appropriate short field takeoff setting in this aircraft. Push the controls away from us because the wind's behind. And approach path is clear, transponders automatic, pitot heats is on, and all the lights. So that's our ATPL check done. Get rid of this window here. Just reset the camera quickly. Oh, please don't stop rolling. I'll never get it going again. But yeah, I'd say, again, the main reason to get this simulator is not how good the aeroplanes are. It's how good it looks, and the fact you can VFR navigate using the scenery, which hopefully I'll be able to showcase. So, T's and P's are good. Let's just whack heading, get that lined up, and we'll just spin the course back around, given we've got a runway change to deal with, such as life. Okay, that's all good. And select full power. Allow the engines to run up. We'll hold it there for about 5 seconds until we've got max RPM. And release the brakes and away we go. Now that kind of stuck in mud effect is affecting our takeoff roll. I'd be expecting this thing to get going a fair bit quicker than it is. So it should be fun clearing those trees at the end of the runway, but we'll see. The 42 rotates at 75, or at least it does in our checklist, so I'm going to go for 80 in this thing. Oh, we're up. Beautiful. That's 20 odd knot headwind really helping us out there. Positive rate gear up. Bit of right pedal. It's maybe a twin-engined aeroplane, but it's both the engines turn the same way, so you still have to deal with propeller slipstream exactly the same way as you do in an aircraft like the Arrow.
Hotel Oscar, continue for south departure. I will contact you next when you leave my airspace.
Okay, thanks Microsoft Sam. Let's get the flaps up and continue the climb at about 9,500 knots. Try and finesse the trim out a little bit to trim us at 100. Coming up to 1,000 feet, we've got 500 to go. And there's Southall in front of us, which is a little village.
Diamond Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar, acknowledge last transmission.
Oh, geez, okay.
Tower Diamond Golf, Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar, continue for south departure.
Ugh. There's our 1,500 feet. I'm still struggling with the trim here. It's actually defaulted to a hat switch on my joystick. I'm fine with the joystick to try and keep it as close to the real aircraft as possible.
Diamond Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar, you are leaving my airspace. Frequency change approved.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Robots.
Tower Diamond Golf, Foxtrot, Foxtrot, Hotel Oscar, frequency change.
Okay, so let's go about 85%, should give us a decent cruise speed. And we're just going to come out to the side, basically to where the shelf of the East Midlands airspace will be, and then we'll set course towards what is going to be Leicester. So as you can see, this aeroplane's pretty sprightly. It's quite fast. About 116 the cruise is about where you'd expect it to be. The DA42 is pretty much the same since it has the same engines. Just gets there a little bit faster because it's lighter. Okay, so let's start tracking southbound. It should be Loughborough over there, and we should start seeing Leicester coming up on the left-hand side of the airplane here, as I do a horrible job of maintaining altitude. It's actually a really rough day today. If you're in the UK, on a Friday, the 21st of August, you'll know that it's a pretty windy, nasty old day. I've actually come home from work early today because we've literally not been able to do anything due to the amount of wind. So I thought, why not play some Flight Simulator instead? Okay, so in real life, I'd be chatting up East Midlands and asking very nicely for a climb into their controlled airspace, VFR. At a more kind of reasonable altitude, just so we're not buzzing along and making lots of noise and annoying people on the ground, and also so we've got more time and height to deal with any emergencies. Granted, it is a twin-engine aeroplane, so you're not going to worry too as much about engine failures. But we'd still always want to be higher. We can see a lot better with more clearance with the ground. So let's assume that we've got that clearance, and we're going to climb. So I'm going to set here, and yeah, let's go to 3,500 feet. That's pretty reasonable. So we'll go full power, raise the nose, and we'll sort of climb at about 5 degrees. This hat switch trim thing is actually backwards from how I'd really expect it to be in real life, which is slightly annoying. But anyway, we're sort of trimmed out now. We can see Leicester coming up on the left-hand side of the aeroplane, large settlement just there. We may not get to 3.5. We've got to stay below the cloud base. Bear in mind, we've got to stay VFR. So let's do a direct track. In fact, let's go flight plan. Get the cursor up. Move to there. Direct to. And that's not working. Fantastic. Okay, screw it. Let's get the aeroplane flying first and foremost. It's not going to clouds. It looks like about 2.5 is what we're going to get out of this. Can't really go much higher. So I'll reset our altitude bug down at that. We don't want to be getting into IMC. That'll be very bad practice given that this is a VFR flight. Bring the power back down. And retrim. So normally I just hit flight plan and hit the direct to over the top of our waypoint that we want to go direct to, but I'm going to have to put it in again by the looks of things. So E, G, B, E. Enter, enter. There we go. So that's updated our route now to be a direct to from our current position rather than the overhead of Nottingham. Now we've kind of made our way around that controlled airspace. So I'm going to cheat slightly. I'm going to put the autopilot into heading and altitude hold.
Engaging autopilot.
Shove the automatics in so we can relax a little bit and have a look at the fantastic scenery. So here's Leicester. Just those lakes on the edge there. And so what we can see in the centre of town, some quite high buildings, a little park in the middle. There's the football stadium. Leicester City Foxes play there. Apparently they're quite a good football team. I don't know, I don't follow football. And over to this side, I think there's a big quarry, big hole in the ground somewhere off there. We're just touching a bit of cloud here at the moment. Just need to make sure we don't get stuck too far into that. Okay, so let's do a quick Frida check. So in fact, we've got our lights on. We really don't need those anymore. So fuel is good. Radio, be tuning in Coventry on the standby, ready to go. Probably be talking to East Midlands at this point. Just make sure we've actually got nav mode on here. I think we're in heading. My bad. Let's put the CDI into GPS. There we go. Try and pick our course back up again. So engine TCP is good. Fuel is more than sufficient. DI is automatic. Altimeter is the East Mid setting. I guess we'll change to the Birmingham setting, whatever that is at the moment. So let's do a quick check of that. It is 1002. So slight change. That's 2959. Set once. Set twice. And I'm going to stick nav mode on the autopilot so it follows the good old magenta line. And I'll try and pick out some more features. So you can see the M1 motorway, very important north-south motorway in the UK. Just going through there. And we should see the M69 coming up in a second, going towards Birmingham. Mind the heading bugger again. Let's go outside and have a look around. Looking good. Okay, so the towns coming up on this side should be Hinckley and Nuneaton. So we're getting fairly close now, I suspect. That's Coventry, we can see just off in the distance there. I suspect this one is the M69. Don't quote me on that though. Heading towards Birmingham and Coventry. Those buildings just over there might be Bruntingthorpe, which is a disused airfield, a lot of old classic aeroplanes on it. It's always an interesting visit. How far have we got to go? Another 12 miles. So we're at 2,500 feet. We've got to be below 1,500 feet for Birmingham's controlled airspace. We're going to make a straight-in approach from runway 23. So let's say we've got to be down at about 1,000 feet before we're about 3 miles from the airfield. So let's say with 9 miles to go to our 1,000-foot point. It's going to take us 3 miles to get there, so that's absolutely fine. We'll start our descent at 6 miles. Just popping into the bottom of these clouds. Probably sensible to just do a quick descent, just down to about, let's take it down to 2,000 feet. Pop it into VS mode and just go for a couple of clicks and nose down, bring the throttles back a touch. And the name of the game with VFR flying is to just keep contact with the ground as long as you're below 3,000 feet. As long as you clear a cloud in sight of the surface and you've got more than 1.5k of visibility. As long as you're below 140 knots, of course we're above 140 knots, so that's 5k of visibility for us. It's K off the wingtip. That's a place called Bitterswell Industrial Estate. Big warehouses over there. Crack my seats up, see if we can spot Cov coming at us. It'll be interesting to see what Coventry Airport actually looks like. I think that's it there, look. So as you can see, we're not really lined up with the runway. Now what I'll be doing in real life is I've put the nav into OBS mode and give us a centre line to make it easier to line up on a long final. However, I don't believe we've got the functionality for that, so what we're going to do instead is do it manually, which is usually the precursor to a horrible problem. But hey ho, let's see what happens. Let's not quite go this far. They have modelled quite a few things. The wind arrows are on here. You can see just how windy it is up here. We're just, well, we'll come a little bit further because we haven't dropped 500 feet. We'll close to about 5 miles and start the descent from there. You can see the centre line at Cov coming in there. Start bringing the power back and slowing down to about 120. It's a sensible approach, initial approach speed for this aeroplane. So we'll do our free mad check. So fuel is on and sufficient still. I'm guessing the pumps are just backups and we don't put those on. No idea. Radio, set that up to Coventry if we were in real life. Mixture we don't have. Altimeter is already set to the Birmingham QNH. Field elevation at Cov is about 300 feet, so we'll take that, bear that one in mind. It's quite a high elevation airfield, certainly compared to places like Doncaster. And DI is all automatic, and it's behaving itself, so we're all good. Let's get this out of the way. So this is going to be a visual approach. Let's pop the autopilot out. And start flying manually towards the runway. So we're going to start our gentle descent now. Reset our alt bug to 1000 for. In fact, let's reset it to 1300 just so we know what circuit height is if we do go around and we have to fly a circuit. Try and trim into this descent as best I can. Just about see the that we've got what looks like 2 whites, 2 reds on the PAPI from all the way out here, so we're pretty much on a nice 3-degree glide slope. No ILS at Coventry, so we've got nothing to tune up to help us with that. There used to be a few years back when I first started instructing. Did a few ILSs into Coventry, but now it's just uncontrolled GA airfield. Start bringing the speed back now to about 100 knots. Four and a half miles to go. I think about 4 mile final should be a sensible place for us to do our bomb visual checks. So I'm going to just do exactly the same sort of checks that I'd be doing in the Arrow in this aeroplane. A lot of the items don't apply, but we still do them just because it's that familiarity. There's still enough items that do apply. It still makes it a useful check to do. So there's 4 miles, so brakes checked, pressurized, parking brake is off, undercarriage, so gear down. Mixture we don't have. Fuel on a sufficient flap, we'll go speed check, and flaps 1 inside the white arc, as you can see on the speed tape, just that. Instruments are all good and aligned. Carb heat we don't have. Hatches and harnesses are all secure, and let's whack both landing and the taxi lights on. We've got 1 white, 3 red, so let's decrease our rate of descent a little. Ground speed is 80 knots, so that should be about 400 feet per minute. Rate of descent, half it, add a 0. Nice rough and ready 3-degree calculation. If this was a single-engine aircraft, by the way, I'd be sort of aiming to keep the aeroplane a little bit higher, maybe 3 whites, just in case we had an engine failure, just to give us a chance of actually getting slowed down. Now, approach speed in the DA42 is about 85 knots, or at least that's what we fly at our company. So I'm going to go 90, given that I suspect everything with this aeroplane is just a touch faster, given it's heavier. And given we got 2 miles to go, I'm going to start bringing that speed back, getting the trim sorted. Flaps full, we're established, we're configured. Presumably we are clear to land. Let's crank the seat up a little bit so we can see slightly better. Okay, we'll touch slow, correcting, touch slow and low. Not a good combination, so we'll quickly try and rectify that. Got the height sorted, speed's coming back. Use the rudder to crab into that bit of crosswind that we have from the right. Pretty good representation of Coventry by the looks of things. Not actually been here before. Over on the left, it's got some big warehouses which are actually belonging to the Royal Mail. Speed's decaying a little bit again. I'm going to add some power to rectify that. Approach path looks good though, still dealing with that crosswind. Crabbing off to the right. It's coming into the friction layer now, so some of that crab angle's coming off. I'm going to reduce power, raise the nose for the flare, and kick off the crab angle. It's close enough. Whee! Bit of back pressure, bit of braking. Not too harsh, don't want to lock the wheels. And is that Bravo there? I'm guessing that's Bravo. Now these are all sorts of rough approximations of what the real apron looks like. I'm going to go a little bit further down because it looks like the parking area is just there, so I think this is probably Bravo. That is actually, that's the south apron over there, I suspect. I'm reasonably familiar with Coventry. I do actually have an airfield chart at the side of me. I'm just lazy. I should really be looking at it. But yeah, the layout is pretty much bang on. It's just the buildings aren't quite what they are in real life. But it's pretty impressive representation for a default airport. It's far, far better than anything you might find in Prepared, that's for sure. Okay, so we'll come off here. Head over to the parking area, and as we vacate the runway, landing lights and strobes can come off. We'll knock the flaps up, pitot heat can come off, and transponder should be automatic. Yeah, it's standby, so that's good. Park next to this, is it King Air? Oh no, it's only got one engine. It's a Pilatus. Okay, so liner up here, we'll knock the taxi lights off. Pop behind the yellow line and stop here, parking brake on. Now in the 42 there's a requirement to run the engines and cool them down for, I believe it's 2 minutes if I remember rightly. But I usually count the taxi as part of that, and our taxi was about a minute sort of thing. So we'll assume that the engines are sort of sufficiently cooled down. So we're going to go avionics master off. We take note of the tacho Hobbs setting, which is actually one of the options on here before we shut down. And then we are going to just pop off the engine master switches. Shuts down the engine nice and easy like that. And then we will pop off the master switch. And we're all done. So, hopefully, that was a good little, just an initial introduction to this flight simulator. I just wanted to kind of show what it looks like for those of you who've not seen it yet. We're going to have a lot more videos coming on this where we do all sorts of crazy stuff. A lot of my real-world students, current and former, are playing this right now. And they're all hopefully going to be joining us for some formation flight craziness all the way through London. So that should be a good laugh. And also plenty of tutorial videos and things like that coming on this simulator as well. But hopefully this was a good intro to what the UK looks like in this simulator, at least the Midlands. It's very, very realistic from my point of view in terms of what things look like. Quite easy to visually navigate. As you could see, although we were following the magenta line a little bit, I was easily able to pick out towns and cities and things like that just from memory. Which is a huge step forward really over every other simulator that's on the market right now. In terms of how the aeroplanes fly, like I said, the flight models are pretty basic, but you can tell that there's a lot of advanced stuff going on off in the background. You can feel turbulence coming off hangars and buildings. The friction layer exists. Obviously, as you saw, the crab angle came off as we got lower. Aeroplanes floating, ground effects. Propeller slipstream works as it should do, affecting the rudder. Obviously not the tailplane, because it's a high tail on this airplane. But yeah, all sorts of stuff like that is a real step forward over older sims like X-Plane and P3D, and it's going to be really exciting to see what Microsoft do with this sim in the sort of coming weeks and months. But yeah, I guess we'll sign off here, and leave us a comment, leave us a like, subscribe if you're liking what we're doing. If not, whatever, give us a thumbs down. Any kind of feedback's always good, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.